Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm Mary Halpin Carter, and I'm the head of school at Derryfield. And I'm excited to do a first ever fireside chat. I've got the fire right here, and I hope you're comfortable where you are as well. Um, I want to start by thanking all of you who tuned in to see me instead of Tiger King. It's hard to compete with what's on Netflix, so I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate all of you who sent questions ahead of time. I'm going to answer those shortly, but because there were so many, and because there are amazingly, I think, here it is, 57 people on this call, it would be great if you would keep your microphones muted so that the only dogs and people we hear are the ones rumbling around in my house. So there's so much information to share that I'm actually going to be speaking from notes this time. First of all, I want to make sure to express to you that in this difficult time, that at Derryfield, we really want to know how your child is doing and how your family is doing. And especially if your family is struggling in some way because of COVID-19, we would deeply appreciate it if you would let me know or let your child's advisor know so that we can reach out and support. And I want you to know that I understand how difficult this can be. I have a child in quarantine up in Hanover, and I have a child in quarantine upstairs. And I've got one child left who I'm hugging a lot to make up for the other two. So I understand that this is a topsy-turvy time for families. And we are here for you in terms of student support, college counseling, health counseling, putting you in touch with resources. So please communicate with your child's advisor or with me so that my colleagues and I can support. I'm wearing a necklace right now that says on it, no progrede est regrede, and which, if we had Mike Leary, the Latin scholar here, would be pronounced much better, I'm sure. But it translates into, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. And one of the fascinating things about this necklace is it was made in Providence, Rhode Island by an artist who found this Latin statement carved into a wall around a private home in Italy. And the remarkable thing is that it's actually ancient graffiti from ancient Roman times, which just leads us to this fact that people have been thinking about how to move through periods of change, just as we are right now, for thousands of years. And what a fall and winter of change we had this year. New buildings, new academic program, new schedule, phenomenal parties celebrating all of them. We are a strong and confident community, and we will move through this period of change just as well. We'll weather this storm. There's really no moving backward. There's only thinking forward. So today was the first day of online remote learning, and we will continue to deliver the mission of the school online. And the Derryfield's mission is that Derryfield inspires bright, motivated students to be their best and to be extraordinary members of any community. And so in addition to classes, we had a warm community meeting at the end of the day, complete with a student speech and a student performance. And these were watched within virtual reality or virtual advisory sessions. And so there's that community. Initial reports about the day from my advisees anyway was that it was really positive, with a sprinkling of technical choice kinds of questions. Should all the classmates speak out at once during a virtual class that's video conferenced, or should people speak using the written chat? Are the Google breakout side rooms good enough for one of our English classes? But those are really questions about reaching a level of excellence. They're not questions about preparation. And they reflect the fact that my faculty colleagues and I are committed to the expectation that we're going to deliver the mission in a line with our core value of aiming high. It's just we'll be aiming high using digital tools. Our goal is to provide the same excellent learning, personalized attention, and community connectedness that we know on campus. Deans Lindley Schutz and Pete Brandt have been hard at work leading the faculty over the last couple of weeks in crafting a virtual reality learning plan that takes into account the realities of learning from home. And our division heads, Mark and Blaisdell and Ben Doherty, have built a daily schedule to give students structure to part of their day and taking into account the needs for mental rest and time away from the screen. Derryfield is uniquely positioned to rise to this challenge because our faculty are already teaching student-centered project-based learning, often with real-world applications. As a school, for 7 years, we've participated in the Malone Online Consortium, a select group of schools that have an online program that we run together. And many of our faculty have been teaching in a blended learning model in their classes on campus for years, which is what your children are experiencing now. Blended means sometimes synchronous and sometimes asynchronous. And we've been using that for years. And then on top of it, we have this other advantage that for over 8 years, we've been a one-to-one technology device school. So every student and faculty member has a laptop or a tablet and is very comfortable using it. What we know from our teachers who have taught in and been trained in the Malone Online Consortium is that online learning is different from classroom learning, and it has to be designed differently. Best practice is not to jam live classroom practices into the new paradigm. Those of us with college-age kids are seeing some of their professors realizing that jamming lectures and discussion into this new format is not highly productive because it can be really hard to concentrate with for so long with so many classmates, including yourself, idle in front of a screen. Our colleagues in public schools and in West Coast schools, independent schools that started their online teaching weeks ago have already started cutting the amount of screen time down, realizing that synchronous learning alone has diminishing returns. Our membership in the Malone Online Consortium has also taught us how vital it is to have different learning tasks for students to do themselves asynchronously. For example, a variety of activities calling on students to read, to watch, to research, to invent, to collaborate, to discuss. And our students are expected to go beyond that structured day and work on assignments after that virtual learning ends for the day, working with an online partner or a group or working independently. Another thing we've learned from the Malone Online Consortium is that to avoid misunderstandings, teachers need to design assignments with much more precision in the activities because the cues conveyed in a classroom to clarify things, a nod, a quick note on the board, a classmate leaning over and answering the question for you using a different word, those are not present. And so shorter, clearer, more focused assignments are better. Intensive bursts of activities and intentional instruction with frequent check-ins from the teacher are really an important way to go, we've learned. And we've also built at the end of each child's day a guided study hall or extra help period, which is designed to reduce misunderstanding and enhance comprehension. So students are being instructed to choose a teacher's virtual classroom to go hang out in at the end of the day in that block and start on their homework there. So it's sort of a guided study hall in a way. And they can listen to the questions that other students in that teacher's virtual classroom are asking and ask their own. And this time is meant to reduce the need for parents to become homeschoolers, which I'm sure you're all relieved to hear. We've had parents reach out to us worried that the schedule that we're using is going to require that their kids spend too long on screen. And then we've also had parents who've reached out concerned that the day isn't long enough. And so I've encouraged the faculty and the students and our families to all imagine that we're together learning about how we're going to do this remote learning better and better. Really have an innovator's mindset collaboratively and connected and communally. And we need to think about the month of April like the first few weeks of school in the fall. Every fall we have to acclimate, we need to learn to work together, and we develop our new routines and our new habits. And we're expecting that we're going to have successes and we're going to have challenges and we're going to learn as we implement. And by doing that, we're going to model for the students how to be innovative people who work in a creative and changing world. So patience and humor are majorly needed for this endeavor, and your feedback is very important. We are going to survey students, parents, and teachers at the end of the week for the next few weeks. And we're going to adjust our online approaches based upon what we learn from you. So please, when those surveys come to you via email at the end of this week and at the end of the weeks ahead, please fill them out, even if you're happy with the way things are going, because we're really committed to continuous improvement of the remote learning. So as my wonderful colleague, Judy Reynolds, master Spanish teacher, wrote to me today, she said, I was a bit restless sleeping because I was excited and running through the new choreography of my classes in this new online format. For me, teaching is like dancing. Sometimes we are graceful and sometimes we fall, but we always get back up and try harder. Our audience deserves this. And so that just gets to sort of our first attempts at teaching, putting all of our classes at the same time online. But that's not the limit to what our goals are. Our aim is to continue with two other very important elements of the Derryfield education: personalized attention and a sense of community. It's important for students to participate in that extra help block that I described, and also to reach out to their teachers via email. They need, in order to get that personal attention that they need. Teachers will not be able to grab that child for a pre-class chat or a post-class chat, or pull them aside in the hallway to talk to them. And so that email is going to become really important. And the sense of community is going to be advanced through both our advisory groups and our community meeting. So please encourage your child to communicate with teachers and advisors. And just like on campus, please get in touch with the teacher if a child's having really great difficulty in a class, or with the advisor if there's general difficulty of a high level. We also are going to look to you to suggest future topics for Fireside chats and future stars as well. Next week's stars will be our college counselor, Brennan Barnard, and Rick Clark, who's an admission director from Georgia Tech. Brennan and Rick co-wrote a book that was just published about college, the realities about college, the college process. They're going to talk next Monday night about how COVID-19 is having an effect on colleges and the college process both this year and next, but they're also open to questions about any aspect of college. So if you have a 6th grader and you're curious, please send your questions to me and I'll send them on to Brennan for next week. So now let's get to your questions for me. First question, will there be concert choir? And the answer is yes, concert choir will still be meeting, and Alex Hunton is making plans to have, instead of a live concert, a virtual choir. So we'll look forward to finding out how to take a choir into virtual performance. Next question, will there be any adjustments to the tuition or other spring fees? Well, teaching and learning is going to proceed, as I've just described, for full academic credit. And so we're going to continue with tuition for the 2020 school year. We'll proceed as planned in accordance with the enrollment agreement. However, The unused portions of transportation monies, we will work with families to credit those transportation, some parts of those transportation monies, even though the agreement says that they're non-refundable. And similarly, regarding global trips, it's been communicated already, but just to reiterate that we're working on obtaining refunds from the various businesses that we've arranged those trips with, and we'll be in touch with families about the specifics. Next question, how do I help my child with his or her studies? Well, the first key thing is to create a good remote learning spot at home. Good light means that the light is in front of their faces. I have a lamp on either side of this laptop, so the light is coming toward my face. When the light is behind them, they're completely dark and in shadow when they're in their classes. So light in front, a table for the laptop, and a quiet space. The second thing is to help them establish routines for homework time. This is going to be sort of, they need some kind of probably physical activity and break where we would have put sports after classes or after that extra help time, and then back in to work on homework. And then also to encourage diverse experiences in their day for mental and physical health. So breaks are really important in that structured day. They were really carefully thought out. Important. I have an advisee who said that she took a run during the lunch period and just took a run around her building, use those breaks for food, for fresh air. And then we will soon, if we haven't already, be delivering fun fitness videos that have been created by our athletics and wellness staff. And parents can participate in those as well. I know I need it. Fourth question, I'm wondering about grading and expectations in general. In my remarks to students, I encourage them not to worry about grading because our guiding principles in this environment are flexibility and compassion when it comes to grading. Teachers are adapting activities and assessments, and our grading expectations are also going to be adjusted to match this environment. If your child is not thriving in a class, please reach out to that teacher right away. We also really want to know, again, to reiterate, if your child's sick or the family is sick and it's having an impact on your child's ability to do the work. And so we want to be able to respond to that. So again, communicate. If your child has a learning plan, reach out to the advisor, to Jody Lean in the middle school, or to Jenny Besh in the upper school. Jenny Besh for any child 6 through 12 who has a learning plan with your concerns. Fifth question, I am sure student anxiety has been a topic of discussion among your team. Are there any measures in place to support learners? Well, our student support team still exists remotely. It exists on campus and it exists remotely. And it's going to actually go to a new level in our remote environment where they will actually be working to develop teaching all of our students, not just the ones who specifically were concerned about needing support, but all students, tips and practices to reduce stress and anxiety. So I want to thank you so much. I know these are hard times to be a person of any type, but it's certainly a hard time to be a parent. And sometimes we're at a loss for what to say that is both truthful and also reassuring to children. Fred Rogers, the famous Mr. Rogers, is one of my educational heroes. And here's something that Fred Rogers once wrote. He said, when I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news, and my mother would say, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I'm always reminded that there are still so many helpers, and so I find hope. As we think about uplifting our children, let's talk about and celebrate the helpers. Thanks so much for all you do for Derryfield. Good night.